Hi, welcome to Talk Track Tips, where my goal every week is to give you just a couple of tips and tidbits that you can take to make your next presentation that much more successful. Now, this week I was invited to participate in a webinar and an interesting question came up, and I really like the discussion around it, so I wanted to talk about it here. And that is what to do when you are given a specific amount of time for a presentation, but on that day, you have to shorten it for some reason. Usually it's because somebody before you went over time. Sometimes it can be something completely out of everybody's control. It was delayed, there was a power outage, something like that. But I have found that you are always going to be up against hard time limits when it comes to presenting to an audience. Those hard time limits are just natural progressions of the day. So maybe they've been sitting there for a long time, they're ready to get coffee, they are ready to go to lunch, whatever that might be. They're not going to be excited to sit there for an extra 15 or 20 minutes and listen to what you have to say. And unfortunately, it's no fault of yours, but you're going to be the one that they remember going over time. So there are a few things that you can do to mitigate this situation, and it really comes down to preparation. So this is another great reason why you shouldn't just throw all your slides together the night before. You really need to put a lot of thought into how you create your presentation, and you need to rehearse. So when it comes down to preparation for that presentation, when you think about the things you need to present, really focus on what your main ideas are. Once you know your main things that they need to know, you start filling that in with your supporting ideas or your supporting things. So when you have one main idea and 3 supporting ideas, if you need to start cutting, you can always cut 1 or 2 of those supporting ideas. You know what they need to know, and you can start to support it with just a little less information. They'll still walk away with those main points. That's what they need to know. Or if you find that you have more time than you thought, you can expand upon those different supporting ideas. So that allows you to have a scalable presentation. You can expand or contract it as needed on the day that you give that presentation. And it's really helpful because I have presentations and people will say to me, look, I only have 20 minutes. Can you give this presentation in 20 minutes? And I say, yeah, actually I can, because it's designed that way. I can give it in 5 minutes. I can give it in an hour. Maybe it's best in 45, and I will tell them that, but I can scale that presentation to whatever time limit I have, because that's the way I design them. So speaking of design, it's important to make sure that when you create your slides, you don't have text-heavy slides. Best practice for presentations in general, we've all heard death by PowerPoint and all of the bullet points that people feel like are just too much. If you have those on your slide, you will feel like you need to click through all of them and then explain all of them. Or say to your audience, well, that's not important. I'll just keep going. And then they're going to wonder. They're going to think that you didn't really prepare for this presentation because you have information in there that isn't important, or you just have to skip it. And you don't really want to have that feeling from your audience, like they're a little curious about why that information is not going to be presented. So that is good slide design, and it does allow you to expand and contract your presentation as needed. The presentation that I gave this week, I had a slide about women in sports broadcasting, and I have a notes section that is 2 pages long for that single slide. And that is because I find it to be really exciting to talk about, a lot of fun details in the different women that have been breaking that glass ceiling of sports broadcasting. But when I don't have time, I need to cut that down really quick. And so this week, I just mentioned their names, the ones that I was talking about, and then gave one of the stories of the 3. And if I had enough time, I would talk about all 3 of them and throw in a bunch of those details, and we'd have a conversation about it. But I didn't have that kind of time this week. So when it comes to the performance of that presentation, if you have practiced maybe cutting that information down, making sure that you are as concise as you can be, that allows you to then expand if you have time. I do this all the time. I practice my most concise version of a slide to make sure that my words are down and I'm not going to be stumbling or searching for words. But when it comes to presentation time, if I have time, I can tell a story. I can relax. I can joke with the audience. We can, take questions. Those things are things I can do when I have time. So it's very scalable that way. Another thing that you can work into your design and your preparation phase is takeaways for the presentation. This is really a great way to be able to shorten your presentation without having your audience lose that detail. If you can say, go to my website, here's a QR code, just scan this and you will go directly to the PDF that I have prepared for you, then you have the confidence to leave things out, because as they take that excitement, they can take it and they can go learn about those details themselves. So when that happens, you can absolutely shorten your presentation without feeling the pressure to make sure that they know every single detail that you had originally practiced, because you know that with that good design and that good preparation, they're still going to walk out with those things you want them to know. So hopefully that'll help you during your next presentation. If you want some more tips on how to give presentations, you can find me on LinkedIn. If you search for Talk Track Presentations, you can go to www.talktrackpresentations.com. You can subscribe to my newsletter and my blog. And I'm happy to share all of these tips with you so that presenting can be fun for everybody.